You gave years to something you believed in. A team, a company, a partnership, men you called brothers. You showed up every season, every meeting, every time it mattered. You were the reliable one, and everyone knew it. Then one day, no conversation, no warning, no basic respect of an explanation. It was over. Just like that. And the part that stayed with you was not the anger. It was the clarity. Because when you looked back, really looked back, the signs were always there. You had just been too loyal to see them. Most men are not naive by nature. They are naive by training. From the time they are young, they are taught that loyalty is reciprocal, that hard work gets recognized, that good faith is met with good faith, that if you show up, people will show up for you. These are not bad lessons, but they are incomplete ones, because they assume that everyone in the room is operating by the same code. Machiavelli understood something that most men spend decades learning the hard way. People do not reveal their intentions. They reveal their interests. And when your interests no longer serve theirs, the loyalty you believed in disappears as if it was never there. Because for them, it never was. There is a specific reason why decent men get blindsided more than anyone else. It is not weakness, it is a flaw in the operating system. A man of genuine loyalty assumes others are loyal. A man of genuine honesty assumes others are honest. He filters the world through his own code and misses what is actually in front of him. Psychologists call this projection. Machiavelli called it dangerous. When you are the kind of man who keeps his word, you unconsciously extend that standard to the people around you. You fill in the gaps with the best possible interpretation. You explain away the warning signs. You stay longer than you should in rooms that were never built for you. The irony is that your greatest strength, your integrity, becomes the very thing that blinds you. There are 3 people who were never on your side. The first keeps you close because you are useful. He shows up when he needs something and disappears when he does not. Friendly, even warm, but the warmth has a purpose. The moment a better option appears, he will move without hesitation and without guilt. The second imitates loyalty well enough to pass. He has studied the language, mirrors your values, makes you feel understood, until his interests shift. Then the mask comes off with no warning and no apology. The third is the most common. He simply never thought about your interests at all, not malicious, just focused entirely on his own. You were a resource in a plan you did not know existed. All 3 have one thing in common. They were never confused about where they stood. Only you were. Machiavelli is misquoted constantly. People reduce him to manipulation and cruelty. That is not what he wrote. What he actually observed, after watching powerful men rise and fall, was this. The man who sees the world as it is holds the advantage over the man who sees the world as he wishes it to be. That is not a license to become cold. It is an instruction to become clear. He wrote that a wise man must rely on what is in his power, not on what is in the power of others. That one sentence is worth years of hard lessons, because the moment you stop anchoring your security in other people's loyalty you cannot control, you stop being vulnerable to its removal. If this is hitting close to home, if you have been in a room where you were the last one to know you did not belong, subscribe. There is more coming, and you need to be here for it. Here is what actually changes when a man finally sees clearly. He does not become bitter. Bitterness is just naivety wearing a different mask. It still gives other people's behavior the power to define your state. He does not become isolated. Withdrawing from everyone is not strategy. It is damage. What changes is his standard of evidence. He stops taking loyalty on faith and starts watching for it in action. He stops explaining himself to people who have already decided. He stops investing in rooms that drain him. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the practice of not accepting appearances at face value, testing what is real before responding to it. Marcus Aurelius practiced it every day, not to become cold, to become undeceivable. The people who used you, who kept you close until you were no longer convenient, they did not take something that cannot be recovered. What they took was an illusion, and illusions, once broken, cannot be restored. That sounds like loss. It is actually the opposite. A man who no longer carries false loyalty does not waste energy defending people who would not defend him. He does not stay in rooms that were built to contain him. He does not perform patience for people who are already calculating their next move. He becomes harder to fool, harder to manage, harder to use. And that is not cruelty. That is the most valuable thing a man can become after 40. You already know what it feels like to give everything to something that was not giving back, to stay longer than the evidence supported because leaving felt like failure, because you had invested too much to walk away, because you still believed that if you just worked harder or stayed more loyal, the reciprocity would eventually come, and now you know it was never going to come. Not because you were not enough, but because the people in that room were never operating on your terms to begin with. And that knowledge, as uncomfortable as it is the most valuable thing you have ever been given. Because a man who has been through the fire of misplaced loyalty and come out the other side with his clarity intact is a man who cannot be fooled the same way twice. And that is not a small thing. That is the beginning of a different kind of power. The kind that does not need to announce itself. The kind that does not chase approval or beg for recognition. The kind that simply moves with precision and stops wasting itself on rooms that were never built to hold it. So if you are done being the man who finishes last, if you are finally ready to see the game clearly and play it on your own terms, you are in the right place, and we are just getting started.